Man, I'll tell you what. If anybody out there wants to be an audio video tech for me, I've just got this ballin' budget that I'm working with right now. So, that would probably work out just fine. Oh, there's 3 people watching me now. That's great. You guys are watching me look like an idiot right now. Hello. What's up, Rasta? Hell yeah! That's great. I'll tell you what, man. I'll tell you what's going on. In case you're wondering, I'm over here fumbling and mumbling. Um, I've got the Facebook, well, let's just start with YouTube encoder going on right now. And I've got this fancy Nancy microphone. Trying to work on a new format for my Failed Artist podcast. Hey, what's up? Yeah, dude, Unshaven Modcast. There's a quick shout out there. Hey guys, nothing super important going on except well, it is important. I'll say the content's probably not good, but I'm doing some testing for the Failed Artist podcast. Doing some audio and video testing. I've got my Xbox One broadcasting me live on my screen so I can kind of see the monitor. 2 computers set up with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens, a bit of an overkill. But I'm trying to get the audio through GarageBand so I can record my show. And what I'd like to do is record my show live, um, and kind of just roll that way with it. Maybe I can do some editing later in post. But it'd be cool to have some video interaction, and things like that. I've got my Skype line open, so that's kind of cool, which that's J to the 10. If anybody wants to jump on the Skype, um, I was thinking that'd be cool if I were doing the show if I had, lines open for people. Um, so shout out on Instagram. This is kind of funny going live right now. Also on YouTube at Justin Hyde Art. So we're just doing a quick test run through. It's Friday. I realize on the East Coast it's 5:30 p.m. Most people are probably leaving work in their cars and stuff like that. So this was probably a great time for me to do testing. But yeah, I'm just trying to get stuff worked out, get the kinks worked out for the show here. So just a quick pop over to Facebook to see where I posted that link at. I'm wondering if I got anything. Nothing yet, so that's good. So yeah, if you guys are tuning in, you want to like throw me a shout out over Twitter right now. I'll read your tweets. You can say whatever you want, I suppose, as long as it's not a breach of YouTube, uh, or if it doesn't get me in trouble with iTunes. So tweet me at Justin Heidort. I'll read it right now. I'm not sure how long this video will stay up, but we're live right now. If anybody's watching on Instagram or I haven't done Facebook video. I think I'm going to try to stay away from that because I feel like that's just I don't want too many of the viewers to split away from. I'm trying to get people to go to YouTube for this video. For the show also. I realize that some people like to listen to podcasts like myself, but I think it's also cool when you jump on Facebook Live, when you get that quick crowd response and people, everybody's been at home and seen like a Facebook Live video pop up, and people always want to seem to kind of click on it, and I know I have, and just kind of jump in. And sometimes I'm only there for a minute. I just drop a comment or something and pay attention to what's going on. I guess it's kind of like we're in an age now where people have there's just a lot going on. I don't want to say that everybody has ADD, but we have a lot of options. So you can't expect people to kind of stay tuned in for too long. But if you can grab their attention for a few minutes and get a view out of it, and maybe a comment or two, some interaction, I think that's kind of the goal. And I think when you go live on the video, that kind of does it. What's really taking me off is I can't get my track to record right now in GarageBand. I'm aggravated because this is supposed to be my show, so I'm doing a free show right now with no audio recording, and I'm not sure what's going on with that. So I think I might have to back out of GarageBand real quick. Let's see. I'm probably going to lose my mic, so hang with me for just a minute. We'll see what happens here. Oh, there goes the mic. So a little bit more testing. No microphone going right now. So, okay, let's see what happens here. We're going to fire GarageBand back up, and for tuning in, dudes on and girls on Instagram and on YouTube, which we've got a few people, a handful of people watching now. That's kind of cool. Um, yeah, leave comments in the chat, I guess, on YouTube. Um, Shout out to Rasta, my homie from the switchradio.com. Um, Shout out Unshaven Modcast. Those guys are awesome. Check out their show. And hopefully we can get set back up here for the Failed Artist podcast. Oh, let's see if we're back up now. Oh, why can't you just work for me? Okay, so that's not going to work. All right, I got a better idea. Let's open this guy up. And, oh, I think we're in business. So let's see here. We'll delete that. I think we're good. Sweet. All right, this should be interesting. All right, great. What's up, Dale? 944. All right, so I guess we're live. So welcome everybody to episode 13, if I'm not mistaken, of the Failed Artist podcast. We are actually live for the first time ever. Now, live on Instagram, live on YouTube. You can find it at Justin Hyde Art on Instagram and on YouTube. Doing something a bit different right now. Going live. So if you're hearing this on iTunes, of course it's not live. There's a delay on that, but I guess that will depend on how quick I can get this episode, which is more or less a wild card, up and running. But yeah, I'm going to do a couple shout outs, hopefully, and we're just testing right now, testing a new format. And what does that mean exactly? Been super, super inspired over the last couple weeks. Well, longer than that, but primarily the last couple weeks. Okay, Rasta, thanks. Oh man, a lot going on right now. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screens, which is a bit of an overkill, but broadcasting live via my iPad on Instagram. I'm also I've got a Mac and a PC running, so two computers pushing out right now. So in my Mac, I've got GarageBand, which is what I use to record my audio, and I have a new Facebook, or not a Facebook, but a YouTube encoder that I just downloaded, which is pushing the video out to YouTube, which is how I'm live. So if you are watching me on Instagram or via YouTube, that's how that's happening. Now, as for the audio and what we're doing now, today, at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on a Friday, I picked this time because, well, quite frankly, I was sitting at Starbucks earlier today on it's more or less an off day. This is Memorial Day weekend. Some beautiful weather, and I don't know, I was just hopped up on caffeine, and I just kind of sat back here thinking, I've just been really, really inspired lately, and I thought today was a good day to do some testing. And I'll tell you why I was inspired and how I've been inspired. Basically, I've got this show. Well, let's go back a couple years. I had this show on YouTube, and it was called J10 Studios, which is my old company, which is now Justin Hyde Art, essentially. And basically, I used to take this camera, which was my phone, and a crew of friends, out to all the shows that I would see in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is the city that I am from and the city that I still visit on weekends, but no longer a city that I live in during the week. I now live in Louisville, Kentucky. So, what happened was, and this was around 2012, 13, and I want to say it actually started in 2011, so it lasted briefly a year and a half, from 2011 till about 2013. I used to go to a lot of local rock, metal, hip-hop shows in Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, and I would film the bands playing, which some of them I knew personally, some of them I knew of, but I always kind of left with good content. And people used to always tell me, they'd say, dude, like, you're This is so cool that you went to this show and this concert and this event and I feel like that's just how I live my life and how I always have is I like to go do fun and exciting things, be it buy tickets to a concert to see at some venue or if there's absolutely nothing going on the weekend, I'll find something to do. And I like to move around a lot. I like to hop around from place to place until I find like what's going on. So that's how this all began for me. Um, I used to watch a show on Comedy Central that some of you may know, be familiar with. The comedian is, the show is called Insomniac with David Tell, who's the comedian David Tell, who's a hilarious dude. Um, and he used to go from bar to bar. Now, I used to watch this when I was like in high school, and it would come on, I want to say Comedy Central at like midnight. Like it was pretty late. So, and me, I've always stayed up late, burning the midnight oil kind of a thing. I've always kind of been a night owl. Uh, and I would watch Dave Attell go from city to city, bar to bar with a small camera crew, and he would just be taking shots and drinking beers and hanging out with people at the bar and interviewing them and cracking jokes. And it was just awesome. Like, I loved it. So, what I did with, you know, the inspiration was, I borrowed from that. And then, if you guys are familiar, I know most people know Bam Margera and the late Ryan Dunn. Um, and that whole crew, most people know them from Jackass, but they also used to have some home videos that used to come out before MTV. And it was called CKY. So CKY is, first of all, you can look it up on YouTube. There's a lot of CKY videos. CKY also simultaneously is the name of Bam's brother Jess. His band, his rock band, is called CKY. So it's shared, it's synonymous. So the band is CKY, but then there are these CKY videos that came out way back on VHS and DVD before the internet, really, or as the internet was kind of emerging in the mid 2000s. So in these videos, it was almost like Jackass, like the stunts, but all of their friends um, were sort of like characters in the DVDs. And the way that I saw that was just some creativity. That was, they're from Westchester, Pennsylvania, which I've never been to Westchester. But I equated that as, well, that's no different than, my hometown in northern Kentucky. And these people that are in these videos are no different than, like my friends, my group of friends. So I would look at, some of the funniest friends that I had at the time, and I would think like, oh, this is so cool. So if these guys in CKY can make these videos and they're like super hilarious and funny and they're pulling stunts, how's this any different than when I'm going out with my friends on Friday and Saturday night? So that became the premise of why I recorded that show, J10 Studios Presents 11th Hour. And then, I borrowed a little bit from the CKY stuff, and then I thought about the Insomniac with Dave Attell on Comedy Central, and I combined these two things. So basically, that was the premise of J10 Studios Presents 11th Hour. It was me going out with my iPhone, which I had just got an iPhone, and it changed my life. And it was like, all right, so if I can go out and I can record, a band playing on stage, and then I can also be at the bar, with a couple friends and just be recording everything, that became the cortex of everything I would do. I would go out on Friday, Saturday night, and I would, record as much as I could, footage. And then sometimes I would get other people to record for me on their phones. And then when I would come back home on, Sunday, I would, from Sunday till Thursday or however long, I would, in all my free time, I would edit these videos on my Mac. So that is how, and these videos exist right now on YouTube. You could go there and check that out. But what was crazy about it, and this is what brings us all full circle, is when you look at these videos that are still there, you can go to youtube.com/Justin Haidt, or you can go to my website, justinhaidt.com, and then there's also a little tab. Let's see, hold on. There should be a tab at the top of it, justinhaidt.com. let's see, production. Yeah, if you go to the top, there's a tab that says production, and then if you kind of look down there, it's going to say J10 Studios presents 11th Hour, and then when you click that, it's a basically all of my videos from YouTube are placed onto this one page, and you can, and I broke them into seasons. Um, and this was cool because what I did was I recorded videos from some of the bars in Cincinnati and the bands that were playing in Northern Kentucky. I did a couple art shows that I covered. I featured a lot of my friends' bands that, you know, some of them are still together today, years later, touring all across the country and some of them outside of the country. We took the show to New Orleans once, you know, and that was awesome. You know, and I did, like, I think we filmed 2 days in New Orleans, which I want to say was one of the first episodes that we put around Halloween time. I'm a big Halloween fan, and we went and we did a Halloween special. It was 2 parts. We went to Columbus, Ohio for my favorite haunted house I've ever been through, which is called the Haunted Hoochie. Check those guys out online, if for those of you haunted house fans and horror and avant-garde and stuff like that. You want to check that out. And we went through, you know, we have a couple friends up there, so we brought our phones through and just recorded everything that we were able to. We also went to the USS Nightmare, which I worked for 11 seasons. Since I was in high school, and it was a big part of my life. So we took the cameras through the USS Nightmare one night, took some pictures back in the makeup room, couple real quick interviews, and we, you know, I edit that stuff together. And by we, I mean me, primarily, and whoever I was rolling with that night, whoever, you know, whatever friends happened to be with me would help me out. And I noticed that that was cool. I would get the support of my friends. They would jump in and, you know, offer, hey, do you want me to take some pictures too? And I would always say, yeah, you know, go ahead, whatever you can get. So we did that. And then I also filmed not the reunion of, well, we'll get to that in a minute, but I filmed Guns N' Roses, which was really Axl Rose's band and a bunch of other people, in 2011 when they came through Cincinnati. And that was cool. That got me like 80,000+ hits on my YouTube page. Filmed a bunch of other bands along the way, put a lot of my friends in the videos. Had a lot of fun doing it, really. At this point, I think I got over 200,000 views, which isn't really that many, but it's kind of a dent. And on the YouTube game, that's probably nothing. That's a small blip. But for me, it was a lot because I'm you know, no promotion, using the marketing of just my own mouth, and that's how I got there. So now, here's what ended up happening, and I'm actually circling back around and working my way back around towards to now. Why am I recording now today using video and the inspiration and things behind that? But what it amounted to ultimately was that, you know, there were a couple. Well, you got to remember, this was 2011 and 12 and 13, and people weren't quite ready to embrace I think the digital, you know, medium of video and a live camera. I think people were still kind of like, whoa, is that, you know, are you recording that? What is it for? You know, people were very inquisitive and almost offended when they would see a live, you know, camera on their face. If you walk into a place with a tripod and I think some people were excited for it. Some people were excited and they were like, oh, great. And then, you know, they play for the camera, which always, you know, comes across as good. And then some people would just be like really weird and you'd start to see this strange part, you know, come out in them. People get violent. People get just awkwarded out by the camera. And the thing that sucked most, though, was it was easy to decipher who didn't want to be filmed. And, you know, of course, if anybody asks you not to film, I would just say, hey, no problem, turn the camera the other way. I was always pretty respectful about that. I don't want to go to jail, and I definitely don't want to invade any privacy. But the people who would sometimes play up to the camera would, and you'd have to consider the source of where we're at. A lot of times there was, you know, alcohol being served in some of these places, you know, live event venues, bars, rock and roll, etc. And they would play to the camera and say, oh yeah, wow, this is great. I'm you know, so glad that, you know, that you're here, you know, recording me, and sure, go ahead and, you know, use us in the video. But, the problem was later I would get emails, text messages, and phone calls from people that would say, you got to take it down, take the video down. And you got to think this was like hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, days of editing. Where if somebody would say, hey, don't put me in the video, that would be easy. It would just say, yeah, no problem, done. But for those who said, yeah, sure, go for it, of course I was not carrying around, consent forms, in my back pocket. It sure would have been nice to have those things. And I'm sure today you can. So it did amount to a couple of my videos getting pulled down. And that was upsetting to me. That's a lot of lost time. And you're already talking about projects that are unfunded, projects that are passion projects. This 40 hours a week. Sometimes maybe I'm overestimating. Sometimes some of these videos might have only taken 15 hours to edit, but some of them I certainly spent, a full 40 hours, 10 hours a day or something. I was freelancing, which I still freelance at the time, so that's where the time comes from. But these are nights I would spend, staying up until 5 a.m., just loving the editing process. And then I would post the videos, 25-minute video that was cut up from 2 nights, or maybe even it was from, an event last weekend and an event this, current weekend. I'd merge them together and it'd be one episode. I'd feature a band and then I'd cut to like some crazy scene going on at the bar with my friends, acting crazy, and then, cut away to another band or something. And that was the whole, that was the whole premise of the show. But then you would see one person in the video doing something ridiculous at a bar, and that would be the person that would, end the video. They would, text me or call me and, cause me to, have to pull the video down. So it kind of sucked. So the show was eventually, not to get too much more into it, but I'll do an entire show moving forward. I already have notes for it, for this show, but eventually I had to pull the plug on the show, and there's a reason why, and I'll reveal that at another point in time. But that was the end of my YouTube video publishing, I guess. But then what's crazy is you fast forward about 3 years. You go 4 years forward and we're to today. So we'll just say over the last year or two, what's really happened is live streaming has taken over. Technology has moved forward. Things have just really, really picked up, in a sense of, everybody has a mobile device. People, carry things on the go with them. People have like some serious high grade equipment. GoPros changed the game. iPhones changed the game originally, but then now people have like, just amazing capabilities. So, now everybody's live streaming, which is and then let's throw in video gaming, which I'm not a very big video gamer, per se. I play Madden, but, there's this whole Twitch gaming community that's on the video gaming platforms, PlayStation and Xbox. And the people, who go live on Twitch, they started an IRL section there, which, that exploded. So people, there's like this entire sub-genre of people who, broadcast from home. And then there are also people now who are broadcasting, they're taking their cameras and taking their channel and their stream, and they're going into the cities and they're broadcasting that. So it's like, this is cool. Now, I found myself kind of sucked into it, really, because, just watch it. It's almost like reality TV in a sense of, here's the thing about reality TV, though. It used to be, I think, kind of cool watching The Real World on MTV and, Road Rules. And that's kind of before, I think, the media giants took over, which now when you watch reality TV, it's completely scripted. And I think that took a lot of the fun out of it. But then if you go watch some of these live streamers, if you go to YouTube and you just go to the live section at any point, like even right now, if you go to the live section on YouTube, my stream will pop up. It's not going to populate very high because I don't think I have that many viewers right now, which of course this is a test stream. But also, I'm recording that show, the Failed Artist Podcast. I mean, this you're hearing this right now live, probably on iTunes, which obviously is not live. It's live on YouTube, live on Instagram, and then of course we have the edit that will go up on iTunes. If you're hearing that right now, but it's just really interesting the way that if you gauge an audience and you populate a big enough audience at any given time, it just kind of like snowballs. You can go from 10 viewers to 25 viewers, up until, I mean, who knows? I mean, you can get 20, 30,000 viewers at a time. And that's crazy that happens. I think it takes time to build up that kind of an audience. But I think I was really, inspired watching this happen, especially over the last couple of weeks. I've been watching on YouTube, and seeing some of the people with their shows, which is they're just going around the cities with cameras and Los Angeles and New York, Las Vegas, and it's really honestly no different than what I was doing 3 years ago when I was taking my iPhone down to New Orleans, or New York, and Boston, and taking pictures and filming and stuff like that. The only difference was that I was filming it, bringing it home and editing it, and then throwing in local music over top of it, and that was my show. But I feel like if I had a GoPro 3 years ago and maybe, took advantage of that fact, I probably, who knows, maybe I would have been a professional, YouTuber at this point. Maybe I would have been going to conferences and would have had some sponsors and gotten some free equipment out of it. I might have, 50,000 to 100,000 or more subscribers. But, it doesn't matter what could have happened. I stopped and went a different direction at that point. And I think I kind of like reloaded in a sense. So that's really the point of why the format change and what's happening right now. If you're listening on or watching on Instagram and on YouTube, is I'm kind of like testing things out. It's Friday, it's Memorial Day weekend. Again, I was sitting at Starbucks and I was, just this afternoon, and I was super inspired, thinking about what I've just seen over the last week. And I've been watching, a lot of live streaming, just kind of like as a fan. And it just, I become, so absorbed in the idea once again of like, I want to be a part of that action. And I think that like most people who watch feel like they're there. And it's no different than when you get sucked into a TV show or something. It just brings things full circle for me. I'm still the same person at heart that I was, I think, when I was 17, when I would go to concerts, and I still film things occasionally on my phone when I'm, at a concert, on Facebook Live, which is cool. But I don't really like Facebook Live as a platform, to do things like that. So, and there's different reasons why, but Facebook, I just don't think is, I mean, on one hand, that's where that's where my audience is, as in, like, that's where most of the people I communicate with are. So when I post something on Facebook, it gets a lot of hits, but, it's almost like playing a show to like your family. Like, that's cool and all, but I would rather have, an audience on YouTube of, people across the world, and make it an honest thing. So who knows if I'll ever get to that point. I certainly would like to, but there's only one way to really do it, and there's only one way to try, and that's to jump in. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now. Is just kind of like testing it out. This show, by the way, the Failed Artist Podcast, I think it's worked out pretty good for me, and I've enjoyed doing it, but there are a lot of things I honestly kind of want to build off of, and maybe certain turns I want to make along, the path. I don't want to get too far off course, but kind of want to change a few things up here. I don't really feel it's 100% been what I want it to be. I think I sort of try to push this show to be more of an informal, educational, comprehensive, like breakdown type show, which was cool, and I think that works for some episodes. But I I think another thing that got lost along the way was I really wanted to, freestyle a little bit more, which is what we're doing now. And some days I wake up and I do want to lecture, I do want to talk about a certain topic. And then other times I just kind of want to like click record and say what's on my mind. I don't always have necessarily an ending point or even a beginning point. I just kind of feel like, and this is like the mind of a creative. It's no different when I start painting or writing, creative writing, or writing music for that matter. Sometimes you just kind of jam. So that's what we're doing. And I think I want to try that a little bit more. And, if it's a big giant failure and people are listening to this show later or watching on video and they think, oh, this sucks, well, I mean, that's just something I'm going to have to live with. At least for me, I think I'll be doing something a little bit more honest. And I think that, I'll get a little bit more closer, as far as the layers of the onion being peeled back, closer to what it is I want to become, from the broadcasting artistic standpoint. Now, what makes this difficult now is I've literally been talking and I can't really tell. I want to say I've been broadcasting for an hour, but I've only been recording live audio for about 25 minutes roughly. And that doesn't include the test stuff I was doing before that. I'm kind of losing my voice a little bit. When I'm recording the show, Failed Artist Podcast, I often will pause it and take a break because maybe I slipped up and said something, mumbled or stuttered or something, or maybe what I said just was like blah, and it didn't make sense. But when you're going live on video, it's it's different. You can't really do that. Live is live. But and one thing is my throat's very dry right now, and I'm just getting over like a cold that I had this week. I'm just now starting to get my voice back and everything. So doing the show with no guests means that you have to I have to continue. You can't just stop talking on live TV. So yeah, you just have to kind of keep things rolling and improvise and things like that. So that's interesting, and this is, on the educational side of things, I guess this helps me out too. This gives me practice and repetition to kind of like, I like being in front of a camera. I like, having a microphone. I like having an audience. I like to make things interactive. I feed off of, those around me, and I always have. So that's cool. And I think in the future, I'm going to do things with this show, such as, market it a little bit. Maybe I'll get on Twitter and, put things out. Maybe, I've got the Instagram thing going. We'll work on that. And I'm sure if I went live on a Friday night, at 8 o'clock, half the people are out doing their own thing, and then there's like another half of people who are probably in for the night. Or if I did this even like on a let's say like a Thursday night, or a Wednesday night or something, especially if you get on a format of doing things like that, and then you do things like bring in other people. And I mean, I'm not doing anything right now except talking, so I appreciate everybody that's watching live, people that are have already tuned in, which a couple shout outs along the way. I'll name drop right now. Shout out to Rasta for jumping in the live chat on YouTube, which if you're listening to this live right now or watching on Instagram or YouTube, feel free to chime in on the chat. And the channel's Justin Height Art, so check that out. Still working out the kinks as far as like grabbing URLs and stuff like that. Like, it's all kind of weird. I think I tried to drop a URL earlier on Facebook and I had to delete the post because it connected to like another Google page of mine that was, I don't know what's going on, man. Between Google and YouTube, they've really kind of, I don't know what's going on. I mean, like, it's just like confusing. Sometimes I try to go to my homepage on YouTube, my YouTube like page, and then sometimes I wind up on my Google contact sheet by accident, which I'm like, why is this happening? And I just try to post something on Facebook, and that happened to me as well. Like, link to my like Google Plus profile page, which who even uses that? I mean, I don't. So I'd love to talk to somebody who actually uses their Google Plus homepage. I remember when it came out, they're like, goodbye, Facebook. Seems like that happens a lot with Google. they release products. Never mind, I don't want to get on this tangent. I'm not even a tech guy. I'm not a techie. I know enough just to get me in trouble, obviously. So, where do we go from here? Um, yeah, the video show, J10 Studios presents 11th Hour. I think it was a little ahead of its time, and who knows with the video capabilities now. I'm sure it could bring the show back with its usual cast of characters, many of which are still around. Um, Facebook Live, I think, has proven that it does work. I just think you need to find your audience. Um, the Failed Artist podcast has been a lot of fun. I've done 12 or 13 episodes, and I'm going to continue doing it. But I just find myself pretty often, just out on my runs, jogging and riding my bike sometimes when I get a chance to do that, or just driving in my car, sometimes just like laying in bed at night. And I think like, I need to record another show because you got to stay consistent. You really do. You almost have to release an episode like every single week. And it becomes almost pressing because although creatively I believe in my show and I absolutely love, bringing the content and talking about. I mean, like I just love doing the show. It's fun. I don't get paid to do it. I don't have any sponsorships or anything like that. But it is very. It takes a lot of time. I think to record the show for one, and then to edit and post production, and drop in the audio intro, and I mean just add in a guest along with that, and you can see that sometimes it. With the edits and things like that, can take a couple of days to put that together. So it becomes difficult, and some of the creativity I think is kind of stifled at that point because I don't have any editors with me. I don't have any moderators or anything like that. And eventually I will have a moderator, like once we get an audience on YouTube, I will, anoint somebody as a mod so that can help me out. Once, I get an audience in a steady, format, and things continue in this direction, I would like to have, things like more guests appearing on the show. And I mean, and by the way, my Skype line is open right now, which not many people really, well, I won't say that not many people use Skype, but when you log into Skype on a Friday and it's 6 o'clock in the evening Eastern, right now, I don't see that many of my contacts online. But of course, I think it's more like a planned thing, when you want to Skype somebody for a job interview or, just whatever, gaming or something, or you want to link up with people for a podcast. I think that's more of a planned event. But when I throw my Skype out there, which is, I might as well do that now, it is J to the 10. So that's the letter J, TOTHE, and then the number 10, J to the 10. When you plan people, and I've done it before, to call in on Skype, you can, patch the audio over and things like that. So having a guest appear via Skype, that's something I've done before on previous podcasts that I've worked on. Fantasy football shout out, by the way. And also having people in person. We had Nikki Chen on the show a few weeks ago, and she was here from this studio in Louisville. I've also got another studio up in Newport, Kentucky, which is basically Cincinnati, Ohio. We've got a couple microphones that we'll take on the go, and I've got a laptop up there and a new monitor, a digital monitor that's up there. So that's something I'm working on. It's always like a constant work, I think, in progress to keep things moving and rolling along. But to bring on other guests to the show, I think it becomes awesome. And then to broadcast that live now, so we'll do the Failed Artist podcast show, record it live, and have some video to accompany it. And, like from that point, it becomes anyone's guess, like where can we go from there? You've got the video popping up on YouTube. You've got live audience on Instagram, and then you open up like Twitter, things like that. And that's when things get interesting, I think. So when you make the show interactive. So that's really it as far as the test goes, and that's really it as far as the inspiration and where I'm at. no, the show definitely hasn't, I think, lived up to what I want it to be just yet. Obviously, I mean, I think that's a good sign, to always have, to always have something to look forward to, obviously. But you should never be satisfied. Like, as an artist, I don't think you should ever be like content. I think when you're content, that leads to being complacent. Um, so nobody. I don't think any artist that I know should be satisfied or happy with what they have. You should kind of always be striving towards something bigger. So we're talking about now, taking the show, the Failed Artist podcast, which has been. I think I put that show out in February, and my fan base has. I mean, fan base, audience, basically. It's grown every month. When you go back to when the show first launched, in February, and I want to say it was January, February of this year, up until this. I mean, we're nearing the end of May, and it's we have doubled our audience retention every single month, and that's cool because when I say we, I get in the habit of saying we, but it's really me. It's a one man show, but that this is something I've always wanted to build on. So that's cool. We're going to keep the show growing, but it's obviously, in my opinion, it's nowhere near what it can be. And so we're going to continue doing that. So pushing this format over to YouTube Live is going to be awesome. I think that's going to be cool once we have more guests on the show. You bring guests on the show, and like, obviously the content becomes better. Like, who wants to sit here and listen to me talk for 35 minutes? The only people listening to me right now, I think, on iTunes, are the subscribers to the podcast, and those people listening to the podcast are probably other artists, people who appreciate the creative process, and then some of my closest friends that just know me, that are being cool enough to listen to the podcast. Hopefully, if they're hearing that, out of that group of people, it's giving them inspiration, or it's giving them at least making their drive home a little bit easier from work. But once you bring other guests onto the show, it becomes, like I said, it gets interesting. Now we have something to talk about. We have a topic. We have an actual conversation. And you record live and things like that, then it's even cool. Things get better. You have better content. So we'll keep doing that. Keep pushing forward for that. But the only way to get there, I think, is to build. I can't tell you how many times I sat here, just thinking like, oh, I mean, like, I stared at my YouTube. I stared at the Instagram app like for like an hour before I even hit record, because I was like, what am I going to say when I go live? Like, I have absolutely no idea what I'm going to say. Just going to sit here and mumble, and like, what what's going to happen? But next thing you know, I hit record, and you kind of go. And that's kind of, I feel like, what happens sometimes, when you're asked to speak in front of a group too. You have all these notes, and you have an idea of what you want to say, but you get up there and you just kind of blank out, and you just go. And the way I've always dealt with it is just through improvisation. And that's why I like the show. That's why I like going live. It kind of gives me a little bit of practice at that. I can tell you there's been many times I've been asked to speak or even volunteer to speak. And I had an idea of what it was I wanted to say, and it just went nothing like that. Some of the greatest moments, I remember when I was asked to speak at, one of my best friend's wedding, and the best part of the speech, and I had planned this speech for like, I don't know, like a couple weeks, but the best part of the speech came at an unexpected moment where I was improvising, I should say, and kind of just like said something funny off the tip of my tongue, and didn't even plan it at all, and like everybody laughed. Like, legitimately, if you take that moment away, my speech was probably like okay, deserving of a golf clap. But because I said that one funny thing, which just flew out of my mouth, probably because I had had a few drinks, so therefore it just like became natural to say something funny. Everybody laughed, and it was great. And I knew that was a great time to cut the speech and get right to the outro of it, and get off the stage, basically. And that's kind of like the art of improvisation. Not that I'm an expert, but it's, what I know to be true. So, you know, where are we now? It's Friday. It's Memorial Day weekend. There's a lot more to build off of still, a lot more work, but we're breaking new ground today. And, I just wanted to thank the people who have jumped in on YouTube live chat, which my buddy Rasta jumped in on that, and the people that jumped in on Instagram for Instagram Live. Had a few people check in there, which I'm kind of like watching. I've got my eyes down on the viewers on there. But it's Friday again. I picked between 5 and 6 o'clock Eastern on a Friday to jump in and do this. I felt like maybe that was a great time, especially today when I was thinking about doing this. I was like, ooh. That's like the best time I think to go live. Actually, it's like the worst time to go live. So being that the traffic would be so like dense, like I didn't think anybody would probably, like, most people are in their cars legitimately right now listening to like the radio or calling their people and making plans. It's Friday night. And I thought, well, I can go live right now and do like a test stream or whatever. And like nobody's going to be online, or just a very small handful of people. So luckily that did happen. I thought it would have been funny if that would have backfired on me and I had 30 to 40 to 50 people commenting all at once. But maybe we can do that in the future. I think that would be super awesome for that to happen. Like in the future, I'd love to have 30, 40, 50 people bumping in the chat, and then 300, 400, 500 people would be even better. But you got to start small. And yeah, it worked out great. Got a little bit of feedback in the chat while I was doing it. And yeah, I definitely had my eye on my Instagram over here on my iPad. And I kind of keep moving back and forth between these two screens. So if you're watching me on Instagram, you see me kind of look away and then back at the Instagram screen or at my iPad. And then on YouTube, you see me kind of staring down and then looking back up into that camera, because I have two different cameras going at once. And hey, how else are you going to ever get used to doing this? Now, granted, this would have been way better with a cameraman or some sort of like a AV administrator, or like production assistant or something like that. Would have been probably a lot easier to man this whole situation, and then I could have somebody like running my social media for me and pulling questions. But luckily, that's why we don't have that big of an audience right now, so I can handle it all myself. But how cool would it be if I could take the show on the go? How cool would it be if I could actually interview people on the go? We could go live on on YouTube mobilely, and interview people that we want to do, and take the show on the road. How cool would that be? I already know there's a general way that I can make that happen, but I think that there's also a budget number that I would need to do such a thing. And I don't know, when you're talking about the financial aspect of it all, I think it gets a little interesting, to say the least. I'm not so sure if I actually want to invest in. You need a powerful young Jamie like Joe Rogan has. Yes, Rasta. If you're listening to me right now, which I know my boy Rasta is, I mentioned him a few times in the chat. He's the mighty Rasta, the mighty Rastafarian man. Yeah, dude. This all started from the Switch Radio for me. It was an internet website that still exists today. It's going stronger now than I think it even was 4 years ago when I was a part of it. And that's how I met Rasta. And he is a on-air personality / comedian, internet DJ on the switchradio.com. And I think he had probably the best show, which I'm pretty sure the show actually still exists today. But Rasta's actually been in our chat for this entire testing sequence, which I appreciate that. He's given me I'm kind of reading his comments, and he's given me some good feedback on the show, the audio and some stuff like that. But he actually called out that I need a good assistant, like Joe Rogan has, which Jamie, who replaced, I think, Red Band. And that's interesting because I didn't even mention the Joe Rogan podcast, but that's another huge influence. And a lot of people are turned off, I think, or some people are, by Joe Rogan as a performer or comedian. But it's like, really, if you check out his podcast, it's just, that's an amazing. I think it's the best interview platform. Mark Maron's got an interesting one. If you listen to WTF podcast, Mark Maron, that is an amazing podcast. But I think the Joe Rogan Experience is, debatably, arguably the best. If you want to listen to, honestly, if you go to his YouTube page, Joe Rogan Experience, or if you go to, um, if you listen to podcasts, iTunes and Stitcher, you can look up. Dude, he has so many amazing guests on that show. I mean, scientists and athletes and comedians and fighters and just rock stars and just like so many people, rappers. Like he brings like literally everyone onto his show, and it's always like so insightful. He's like one of the best hosts. He's like one of the best people to give an interview. Um, like I know he could easily like a company like Rolling Stone. Well, I know that UFC pays Joe Rogan a lot of money, but I know that like Rolling Stone magazine would probably die to have Joe Rogan on their staff and to have access to his videos because dude, he's so good. He brings people on and gets the absolute best. And the way that I think he does it is he books interesting guests, but he brings them in, and they always have such insightful, intellectual, spiritual conversations. And so anyway, Joe Rogan's podcast is amazing, and definitely, dare I say, inspirational. But just the way that he took his, and they started, I think, like 4 years ago with a laptop, in his basement, and he had it was himself and one other guy, Brian Redband, and they started, just recording stuff on their laptop. And then next thing he's got full blown. I mean, he was ahead of the podcast game. The show's grown into what it is today. So, yeah, I mean, when you watch that show, that's it. It's just like you get the idea to have that kind of a staff and that kind of support behind you. I would love to, even just on a smaller scale. Basically, is what I'm trying to do is reproduce something similar to that on a smaller scale. So yes, Joe Rogan. To answer you, Rasta, yeah, that's exactly right on the money. Yeah, I need an assistant like Jamie, or like Jamie took over for Red Band. So it's hard to find other people on your same wavelength. I think that's another thing you have to look at as an artist and as a creator is when you find like the right staff, people to collaborate with. That becomes like so amazing. I don't want to be a one-man show. I certainly don't. I don't, honestly. I mean, I can understand why sometimes that's a good thing. I think you always need somebody driving the show or driving the cart, so to speak. But I definitely don't believe it's good to be bogged down with so many jobs. And I think, with the right staff of people, you could take any project and, it could just obviously multiply and intensify, and you just like take this show for instance. I was just saying, if you can go and put the show online and go take grab like an audio guy and have like a moderator online, and then you have just like audio video personnel. You throw in a guest, you throw in like a special guest, and prepare, have a few notes, maybe some staff, maybe even a co-host or something like that. A lot of other folks already do that stuff online. So if you listen to any podcasts like I mean, I've already name dropped a few. We talked about the Joe Rogan Experience. Our buddy's the Unshaven Modcast. That's a local one here in Cincinnati. But yeah, I mean, like anytime you jump on any live streams and things like that, it's the same thing. I mean, I think it's only as good as the content suggests, which is probably what you're feeding off of your guest, or you're feeding off of your audience also. People that are in chat and things like that. So that's just the way it goes. Let's see what's going on here. Man, my Facebook picture that I posted earlier is kind of blown up. So funny story. I was at Starbucks earlier, as I mentioned, and I was driving around looking for quote unquote people to chill with. No, but really honest, I was bored, and it was a beautiful day. My roommate came downstairs and told me, "Hey man, if you're looking to go out and find," we have a funny joke. Okay, so here comes the cat's out of the bag. I have this thing. Our code word is the sundresses, because my thing is the deadly combination is a beautiful young lady who can rock a sundress and a few tattoos at the same time. So we call them the sundresses. Oh, by the way, it looks like our Instagram chat's going to leave 3 seconds. So thanks, guys, for joining us on Instagram. So Wow, okay, so it looks like our live video ended. Okay, should I save that? No, we're not gonna save that. It's just a test. It's just a test. Maybe I should go live again one more time. Let's see. Man, still trying to get over this cold. Okay, let's see here. Whoops. Let's see if we can go back live again. How did I do that? Oh man. Oh, there we go. Start live video. Man, sorry guys, I'm still a little sick. Still getting over a cold. All right, we're back live now on Instagram. Where was I? I got to wrap this show up in just a few minutes, though, you know, we're gonna have to cut this one short. But I'll tell the story of today. So there's the deadly combination. It's when a beautiful young lady, you know, like let's just say I'll paint a picture. Not that I necessarily discriminate towards hair color, but let's just say I'm partial to girls with blonde hair. And think about the typical girl or lady who probably wouldn't have a tattoo. Now throw maybe like a smaller, shorter piece on her. And then, you know, again, just like beautiful young lady, like not your typical tattoo kind of girl, but she has one or two. And then throw us, like have her wearing a sundress. Because everybody knows that, like, when you see the sundresses coming out, that's like the official beginning of summer. This goes back to high school whenever it was like summertime and you would go to the mall and you started seeing girls wearing shorts again. It was like, oh man, as a young man growing up, like that was like the best, you know. You knew it was about to be summertime. So that exists still today, and the joke is between my roommate and I is he knows that I'm a big fan of the sundresses. I call that the deadly combination. The deadly combination is a girl, beautiful girl, young lady wearing, you know, who has a couple tattoos who can rock a sundress. So whenever they're out, he'll let me know. Hey, buddy, the sundresses are out. So what's great about that is he hasn't said that to me since last year. Well, like last summer, last fall. So today was the day. He came downstairs earlier this morning and he said, hey man, the sundresses are out. So to me, that was like, all right, I got to go to the coffee shop. Because that's where we go. When the sundresses are out, we go get coffee, you know, and hopefully you can make new friends. So I was trying to do that today. I was like, all right, today's the day. I grab a pair of shorts, I grab a tank top, and I was like, wow, I haven't had coffee really all week. And as a daily coffee drinker, that's kind of sacrilegious in a sense, just to give you an idea. And, you know, I went ahead and I was like, yeah, today's the day. Iced coffee is what I want. So I'm driving all around town. I mean, I literally went through like the hipster part of town, which is the Highlands here in Louisville. And then I went through downtown, you know, around the 4th Street area, down Main Street, Market Street. And then I circled back around towards, you know, another hipster part of town, which we'll just say that's like my neighborhood. And I do live in a pretty hip spot, like as far as like, there's like some divey bars around town and even some bigger chain ones. So anyways, I drove like all around the city for like an hour looking for the perfect place. I just wanted to find a place that was busy, a place where people were there, like a populated place, because my whole idea was, you know, I wanted to get out, have coffee, and sit there, post up with my phone, drink some coffee, and who knows, strike up a conversation. And hopefully with, you know, the sundress. And that was kind of the plan. And I drove around town and I found a couple people or a couple places that looked sort of populated. They looked kind of busy, but nothing really that forced me to want to get out of my car and park, or let alone pay for parking. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to go back to my neighborhood because, again, I still live in a pretty decent neighborhood, pretty hip, you know, well populated. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go back to my hood. After driving around for 45 minutes, I stop at my Starbucks. And I know, I stopped at Starbucks. I know there are like plenty of local coffee places, but again, I was looking for a place that was well populated. That was the whole point of today. So I finally get out of my car and I park and I'm looking and I'm thinking, man, I know I want to sit outside because the sun's out. It's been nasty and rainy for the last 2 days. And I'm thinking, I definitely want to be outside. So here we are. We're halfway there. And I'm like, we'll see what happens. I don't see really many people here, but whatever. So I go inside. I go and I, buy my iced coffee. And I go take a seat outside. And there's this older lady. And she appears to be kind of like a grandma, maybe, or maybe even an older mom. I'm going to stick with grandma because I don't think she was quite young. And well, anyways, whatever. So she had two of her grandkids with her, and then one other person, which could have been her son. I'm not sure how this worked, but I did post a picture on my Facebook page, which I'll tweet that out maybe here in a minute. At Justin Hyde Art, if you want to check it out. I'll post the photo of the girl, of the lady, and I had a seat there, and I was like really pumped up, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. I'm gonna have a seat to enjoy my iced coffee in this beautiful sunny day. I'm looking pretty fly. I've got this tank top on. I've got my, hipster sunglasses on. Got this blonde hair ablazing right now. I'm feeling pretty good, and it's Friday, mind you. So that was another big part of the story that granted, today was the day to do this, and we're leading into Friday night. And when I get out and I got my coffee and I go sit down, this lady, this grandma, and her two kids, these two kids are running around like telling like fart jokes and knock knock this and guess what, chicken butt. And I was like so aggravated. Like I was like legit, like I was pissed. I was like, seriously? Like really? An hour of driving around and this is the place I stop. This is the place that I go to do it. I was so pissed off. So I was annoyed. So I just grabbed, like, I take my phone and I flip it back and I do the selfie or whatever. And, I posted, and I put them in the background of the picture. I like snuck the picture and I posted it to my Snapchat. It just said annoying AF, 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 angry face. And then I went ahead and saved that photo and threw it up on my Facebook. So I've gotten some interesting photos, or some replies, I should say, to that photo on my Facebook page. A lot of people were saying I should have spit some game to the granny and stuff. No, that's not happening. But it's funny, whatever. That was my ridiculous Friday afternoon story. It's now Friday evening, but that led to the show. That led us to testing out the official format for the Failed Artist podcast, which we're recording this right now on iTunes. If you are checking this out on the stream on YouTube or on Instagram, make sure you check that out. The Failed Artist podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Also on YouTube Live, which is at Justin Hyde Art. We've got some viewers and some comments on the chat. This video will be up live in its entirety. Looks like we'll have about maybe an hour's worth of content before I cut this video. You can check that out. And also Instagram Live. I want to thank everybody. I know we lost the stream earlier. Had to reboot that. And, again, this was sort of a test. And that was the whole point of this video today. So thank you, everybody who jumped in on Instagram. Thank you, everybody. Especially special thank you to Rasta. On YouTube for helping me, set up some of the technical stuff. He gave me some feedback. So that's why you heard me shout him out so much in this episode. We're going to be back. And if you're listening to this on iTunes, we'll be back with the show. This was kind of a basic, what do you call this? Just like a swing from the hip episode. And a lot of testing. So if you guys were checking that out, thank you. Feel free to leave comments. Shoot me a message on Twitter at Justin Hyde Art, or simply go ahead and comment here on the Facebook, or not Facebook rather, but YouTube stream. And we will, I'll get back to you on that. And of course, comments on the show, suggestions, things like that. I love hearing it. And in the future episode, I think I'll open up Skype again and we'll see if we can maybe have a few people call in for the show. So I hope everybody either has or has had a fantastic weekend. Happy Memorial Day to everyone as well. And I think that's going to be it. So thanks, guys, for listening to the Failed Artist podcast. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and we'll catch you on the next one. Peace. All right, sweet. So are we still live on Facebook and Instagram? Yes, we are. Okay, so I'm gonna save this real quick, but yeah. So for the Facebook audience, or not Facebook really, but YouTube. I don't know why I keep saying that. I just want to say thanks, guys, for watching this. I'm about to end the stream, and hopefully come back next time with something a little better. It could be next week, or it could be in 2 weeks. I'm not really sure. It could even be tomorrow. You never know. But the whole point behind it is, making things better, making it more interactive, and hopefully growing the show. There's only one way to find out. I think it's if you, try, get up and then like kind of test some new things. So that's what this was. Um, so yeah, saving the episode. Make sure if you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. Shout out to Rasta. Shout out to, I see my boy Jamie Filer just jumped in here. It's the end of the Failed Artist podcast. We just did a special live, 6 screens going right now, which is completely ridiculous. But we're doing some live test streaming for YouTube. Also threw some stuff on, obviously, the Instagram live channel, and I had things running through my Xbox One and on my TV. So that's what today's purpose was. I just want to thank you guys again for jumping on here. For those that joined us late, make sure you subscribe to the Failed Artist podcast on iTunes and Stitcher. Jump over to youtube.com if you want to see the full video. Drop a comment and maybe give me a subscribe. That would be really cool. So thanks a lot, guys. I hope everyone has a great weekend. And I guess that said, I'm going to end the stream. So love you guys.